Hello and welcome to Fly With Your Shadow, the podcast all about music, mental health and illness, and the mess that the COVID pandemic has made of it all. I'm Jeff Robson, and this show comes to you from my home in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Glad to be back with you after a bit of a summer break with new episodes as often as I'm able to get them to you. I thank you for your patience and support thus far on the show. I'm planning on bringing you a lot more great interviews in the weeks and months to come. Part of the reason for the gap between episodes is that I've had trouble getting guests firmly lined up for the show, but was eager to get something new out. I turned to Facebook asking if any of my musician friends would be willing to volunteer to come on the show, and it came as no surprise that I got a quick, affirmative response from a singer-songwriter I've known and loved since I first heard his music even before his first CD release show in 2003.
Hi, my name is JP Hoe, and I was a singer-songwriter who toured up until a couple of years ago, and now I'm trying to figure out what I am right now. I'm still writing songs. I'm coaching hockey and baseball, and just trying to be patient and trying to figure out how do we move forward.
I love you today like I loved you back then. I take care of you, honey, till the bitter.
It only took one quick listen at his producer's house way back when to convince me that JP Hoe had something special. He's got a big, powerful, one-of-a-kind voice and knows how to craft a memorable melody. I knew he was someone who was headed for great things, and I couldn't wait to share his music with people. And I've been doing it steadily for about 18 years now. In that time, he's put out that early EP, 4 full-length albums, kickstarted the creation of one of my favorite live music venues, and created a perennially successful and popular Christmas time concert called the Ho 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 Holiday Show, which came along with a related collection of original and classic Christmas songs. He's one of the most popular live acts in Winnipeg, always performing to sold-out crowds, and is a regular at local festivals and major events. He was also part of a local supergroup called Middle of Nowhere, which was made up of JP along with Rusty Matyas, who's now known as Rusty Robot, Alexa Dirks, who's doing big things as Begonia these days, Grant Davidson, also known as Slow Leaves, and Keri Latimer, leader of great bands Leaf Rapids and Nathan. He's extensively toured Canada, the USA, and Europe. Needless to say, the guy's been busy. JP has been one of the most played artists on my radio shows, and he's stopped by the studio to chat and sing, I figure at least a dozen times, but somehow it's always fresh and fun and interesting. I hope this time is no exception. I really hope you enjoy this conversation with JP Hoe.
Take all that you have and throw it over your shoulder. You got miles to stretch. No use now looking over.
All right, so before we get into some of that uncertainty that you alluded to in your intro, what were things looking like before pandemic time? Because you had already kind of, you have a lovely family, you have a wonderful wife who seems to still like you and stuff, which is I think is a win, and you have beautiful children, and so you had this life here, and I feel like already kind of before the pandemic, maybe touring and stuff wasn't as big of a deal to you as it had been earlier. Am I right about that?
Well, I guess what happened was, so the last record I put out was in under my name was 2015, 2016. And so toured that for a couple years and then went to make this other project called Middle of Nowhere with a bunch of friends.
Hang on to me. Don't let go, and you see.
And for me, the goal with that project was, okay, let's use this project as a kind of a buffer. Let's go and, we had all the access to all the touring grants. Let's go tour. Let's go. Everyone can, stock up their war chests, and then come back, make the new record. The demos were there, but as it turned out, once we sort of made that record, there just wasn't an appetite, or at least there wasn't enough of an appetite from members of the band to do that. So then it sort of put me in kind of this weird position of, I'd sort of banked on this was going to be the situation. And so then from a professional point of view, I wasn't really like sure how to proceed. I needed to find money. I had released my record on like a label, and didn't love the experience. I liked it, but I didn't love the experience, and I asked to be released from it, which puts new stresses on a situation. And then, in 2018, we were finally able to have a second child, and people did not tell the truth about having two kids. They used to say, "Oh, don't worry, it's just a little more work," and that's a lie. That is that's a huge lie. Our oldest has always been like amazing, and he has, he just goes with the flow. And then this little redheaded Asian girl that we had, she just was she was like the mother of dragons part 2, and she came at us with everything. And so it was really tricky for me to start to figure out, okay, how do I balance, trying to pursue my career and things that still matter to me, but the workload in the house now it felt like 3 to 4 times. And then when my wife went back to work after her year of mat leave, then it was also like, okay, I can't put all like the work. The kids are going to 2 different locations, and now there's 3 sets of lunches to make and 3 sets of lunches to clean every day. And I was finding it really hard to be, selfish isn't the right word, but it was really hard to prioritize what I wanted to do. And then oddly, like throughout, all these years, in December, as you know, like we do this thing called the holiday show, and it's this piece of real estate that, keeps me firmly in, it's my once a year hit of methamphetamine where I go, oh yeah, this is really fun. I love making stuff. I love playing music, and it always feels like this shot in the arm of support from people to say, hey, don't stop. We still believe in you. We're still into you. And so things never just sort of fell off, and it was really just a matter of I didn't know how to balance family life and work life. And I don't feel like I've got a lot of contemporaries who are navigating that same world with kids and with a career that's touring. And I'm not saying that this was some massive career, but it was it was for sure enough that it's been a great enough career that at the end of the year, like the business is in the black. And so that was 2019, and then boom, 2020 hits, and I was getting much closer to going back into the studio on my own, and then everything kind of went to poo, and it's just been a real unique 20 months or whatever it's been, obviously for everyone, but I don't feel like I've had lots of highs and many, many, many lows, and I know I'm coming out of this thing with a few more scars than I went into it with, but I'm currently in a moment of hope right now. I'm feeling kind of good. This 1 month, September feels good, and then October, I'm sure it'll all go away.
Okay, so you packed a lot into there. There's a few things I gotta go back to. Okay, so first of all, I'm glad you brought up Middle of Nowhere, and I'm glad you told me that there was further plans for this, because it's such a mystery to me. So the Middle of Nowhere, it's like you and Keri Latimer and Keri Latimer from Leaf Rapids and Slow Leaves, and Begonia and Rusty Robot, and who am I missing? Am I missing somebody?
That's it.
Okay,
no, that's it. That's 5 of us. Yeah.
Middle of Nowhere, you guys go rent a cabin or a couple cabins, I guess, at Falcon Lake, and decide to write and record an album. Yeah, all from scratch, basically, right?
Yep.
And then, as far as Winnipeg talent goes, like, I used to call you guys the Winnipeg Wilburys, because it was like all these amazing songwriters and people and talented musicians all in one. And you went off and you made this great record, and then you did one show. Well, 2 shows, but nobody got to go to the second one, I guess.
Yeah.
So, were you the only one that thought this thing had legs, or what happened there? Is it?
Well, I think Rusty and I, for sure, we wanted to pursue this thing further, and yeah, like it was funny. I mean, I'm with you. I loved the record. I think I loved it because it felt very eclectic, and it was unique, and this, I don't know, maybe the fact that, you know, we started that week or 8 days with 0 songs, and we wrote and recorded all the songs in 8 days. It, you know, just felt like something that I wanted to celebrate more. And then from a marketing point of view,
it seemed like a no-brainer, right?
You know what? Yeah. but we, like, and, you know, I'm not going to throw, like, anybody under the bus, but we tried to present a case for it. Like, for me, it was like trying to present a business case and say, listen, if we do this, it's a home run. You know, like, every city we go to, everybody has a fan base. Not to mention like the grants that we were already approved for. So, like, we couldn't have lost money, et cetera, and just, you know, this would be fun. It's not like we have to do this for a whole year. Canada, you know, you can do Canada in 2.5, 3 weeks, and then 5 people can make a bunch of money and then go back to their own projects. But
and raise the profile of those projects for some of you, you know, because, you know, Begonia's fans suddenly see you for the first time, and your fans see Keri Latimer for the first time, and whatever.
Yeah, you know? No, that hurt. Like, losing that project, it stung for a while, and it's funny because it was like the first foray into being a band. I remember I was a band at the very, very beginning for a year, and then like in like baby band status, there was just too much politics, and I said, I want to go solo. This isn't good. And then got to enjoy sort of like being my own boss and like making all the decisions, etc. And then this was presented, and I thought, oh, you know what? I'm a grown up. You know, I've got a mortgage. I can handle this. This is going to be no problem. We're all going to be on the same page. And little did I know that was not at all the case. And it, you know, good intentions don't amount to a lot when you're working with 5 people with 5, you know, very different views of the project, I guess. And so it's too bad. It's funny, after this next record, I'd love to try and make something else with people who maybe I need to get like a written agreement that they would like to do stuff with the record. But luckily everybody is, still like friends, and it'll just be like a weird little disappointment, but I get to, take a song or two from it and add it to my set, and I'm just so stupidly proud of that accomplishment. So
I just always wondered, like, aren't there boxes of these records sitting somewhere? Like, you must have manufactured a bunch of them thinking that you were going on tour.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah.
like, they're not exactly going anywhere, right?
We have, there are CDs somewhere, probably at Rusty's house. And there might be like a handful of vinyl left. But yeah, we manufactured sort of your minimum amount, and now they are just, they sit somewhere, and I don't know, I guess maybe I don't even know what to do with them. I mean, maybe we give them away, maybe we use them for fire starters, or I don't know.
No, they're so good. Like, it's a great record. So.
Well,
yeah, I kind of always wondered about that one, but I wasn't sure.
That's as sort of honest as I think that's pretty darn accurate, and it people just once the project was done, turns out not everybody was sort of on the same page, but that was not. I don't know if everybody was aware of that at the beginning, so. That's that.
So you had a bunch of grant money that kind of paid for this thing, right? So, like, don't you think it would have been different if you guys had been spending your own money to make this record? Like, you might have been more. Oh, people might have been more inclined to want to sell copies.
Like 100.
Is that kind of a danger of like grants and stuff? Does that take some of the pressure or some of the ownership, do you think, off some projects for some people?
I think when you go through like the grant process, there's sort of like two sort of frames in mind. One is no, you don't think about that. You just think, okay, I'm an artist, and let's go make some art. Let's throw spaghetti at the wall, and let's see if something sticks. And that's it. And you totally can compartmentalize it, and you don't think about it at all. But then, like for myself, I feel whenever like I received a grant, I think, oh my gosh, like, whoa, this is really exciting, and I'm super grateful for this, and I don't want this project to fail because I don't want to be embarrassed. Even though I don't know if there's any one person who's like looking at all the hard numbers, and even if they were, it's, thinking about all my, like, any of my sales up to like middle of nowhere, like, I know that I'm not at the bottom. I know that I'm not at the top, and I know that I'm not at the bottom. So I'm not like, I shouldn't be embarrassed, but I really want to make good. And I've sat on a bunch of grant review boards and sort of been one of those people who like approve or deny grants, and that they always say, think of it as if it were your own money. Do you think if you were to put your money into this project, do you think you would see it back? And I would say that, like, with the Middle of Nowhere, we entered it with all the right intentions, and no one had provided any cause for concern or reservation when we went ahead and applied for the grant. So like, nobody's conscience is weighed down because of this, because we all went into it. It just the timing of the record coming out, I guess, it's just ultimately it collided with other schedules that were beyond our control, and but but yeah, it's honestly it sucks, and I don't want to ever give anybody who hates, supporting the arts any like fodder or reason for going, look, like this is why we can't support things like that. But then in this exact same breath, I think of like how many, corporate bailouts there have been that are in like the bajillions of dollars, not like $10,000. And I think, okay, you know what? We're okay. It happened, but we have not ruined the country.
I'm not trying to disparage grants or anything, because especially in Canada, it's as you know, it's kind of hard to make money when there's, like you said, not that many places to go, and they're really far apart, and there's not a lot of people in a lot of those places and stuff. So having some way of ensuring that you won't lose your shirt doing it is a good thing. The other thing you touched on was being on a record label, which I got to assume, as a young guy putting out your first few records independently, you kind of think, it might be nice to have a record label. And then
yes, when
you did have a record label, and it was a great record label, it was a record label with high esteem and great clout and everything. It didn't do what you thought it was going to do for you, or
no? I mean, there were aspects. The lead up to like the record coming out felt great. It was nice to have a phone number like of somebody who I'd never met who was really interested in making sure that all the details were right, and taking sort of that off my plate was amazing. But then, once the record came out, and I don't, I honestly can't speak to like how common or uncommon this is, but like we made a pitch for one song, and we went around the country to a bunch of the commercial radio stations, and I played for I don't know how many, like just countless stations, to try and be this recipient of like they would put up a song across the country on all their stations, and it went really, really well. And then I think the week after we had done that, Alessia Cara came out, and they all went, "Oh, sorry, we'll think about JP for like the next month, but this month we're gonna go with her." And then it was dead. And she got that spot, and then there was, I guess, either no more money in the budget to approach these people or to like keep pitching it, and then it was done, and then the promotional money was gone, and I was left with this record that I really loved, and we sort of, the CBC had picked like a different single as the single, and I told the label, and I said, hey, can we find any way to do this? We've got now national like radio play, and they said no, we're out. And we're out of money. And I was like, oh, okay, so then I guess this bird is just gonna slowly fall from the sky and die. And it wasn't like they were angry with me in any way. It's just that was sort of the nature of their model of you get one shot, and if that one shot hits, we are besties. If that one shot doesn't hit, it was good to know you. We'll talk to you in a couple years when your next record is, because we had like a multi-album agreement. But it was after that first record that I thought, oh, you know what? I think I made more money selling records independently. I genuinely appreciated the people who were trying to help me. But I also realized that at the end of the day, like luck, I'll never have the kind of money that is needed to like really lobby anybody in particular. So if you sort of remove that from like the equation of what you think success is, or at least what I have deemed as success, then it takes a lot of pressure off, and you just get to kind of make songs that you like. And if one hits, great. And frankly, if you get to make a song that you're not thinking about radio in any capacity at all, it's my firm belief that those are the artists that are able to have longevity. You know, it's not the ones who are mimicking something else or are doing a version of something else. It's the ones that like came out with something that just was authentic to them, and maybe it somehow fit like the commercial formula in whatever weird way it does. And then those people have like this legitimacy like forever. And so it was a really good experience overall, getting to say, okay, I had this career, I got to be on a really special label with really great people. But ultimately, at least in Canada, it just wasn't like a great fit. And I would still like to find one for like Europe for the next record, because that's the place, that's the market that I'm more interested in touring than anywhere else. So yeah, it was good. It was interesting, and it's just like another feather in the experience cap that I get to use towards whatever I do next.
I just think that's such an important, because I think a lot of people who listen to music or whatever don't really understand like business and art. They're kind of at odds with each other often, right? Like, because it doesn't make any sense to me that you would spend your time making a great record like you did, and then just because that one song didn't catch the right ears at that right moment or whatever, the whole thing is dead, because it's a great record. And you know, the records that really matter to us are the ones that have lots of great songs on them, and there's not even necessarily one song that stands out as being the best, because you know, they all tell part of a story, or they all help make this whole thing beautiful. So the art of the thing and the commerce of the thing are so at odds. And again, you think, well, when we get on this record label, all of a sudden, you know, everybody's going to hear it. But I guess that's obviously not the case. And it's just so strange to me and a lot of people, I think. And it's not even based on talent whatsoever. No. It has nothing to do with your talent. It just happens to be whatever they think they can sell the most of at that moment, right?
Yeah, I remember when, I don't know, it was maybe 2008, 9, 10, and a record that I really liked was by the Counting Crows, and it was called This Desert Life. And what I observed on this record was there's like 13 songs on it, and 12 of those songs like were the furthest thing you could find from like the radio. And then they just had this one lead off track hanging around that you knew they were like obligated to put on, but the rest of the album is what I fell for, and then found out like, okay, David Lowery produced it, and went down to go and try and see if I could like capture that. And I think when I was making like Hideaway, the one with Cadence, I don't think I lost track of that, but there was sort of this excitement because I was signed to say, okay, like this is it, let's cork the bat and see if you can hit something here, as opposed to, you know, maybe the way that I was working before, which was you know, the album tracks are the tracks that I'm generally way more interested in, but I mean that model, it's nobody even cares about album tracks anymore. Everyone just likes singles, and so that may be ultimately like what does me in anyway.
You've had some killer singles, Nothing's Gonna Harm You, and some of those songs.
There's no way nothing's as I'm here and I'm standing beside you, then roll away. Nothing's gonna harm you as long as I'm here now.
You know, people see that video or they hear that song and it grabs their attention. Like, you can do that. You've got strong singles.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I remember that record on Mannequin. I don't think we initially made that song as like the single. Whoever I was working with, it was John Paul Peters, and we were trying to figure out what the single was, and I don't think we thought it was going to be Nothing's Gonna Harm You, which really like proves like, yeah, make what you're gonna make, and then like we've been having chats doing pre-production here for the new record, seeing if anybody felt that there was something, and everybody has like a different opinion, which is perfect because who knows what will strike the right person at the right time. Dumb luck is just, yeah.
You kind of alluded to that with the CBC picking a different song from the record than you had intended, right? Like, so everybody's going to kind of have their favorites and are going to want to push that song. So it's good to have, it's good to have a bunch of good songs, I guess. But
yeah,
you also mentioned the notion of success. So you've changed what success means to you. Do you think? Like the guy I met in like 2002 or whenever that was when we first met a lifetime ago. Do you think his idea of what success is different than the guy I'm talking to today?
I think that it's funny. I think that guy is me now, but he took a little detour. Like it genuinely started with, oh, this is fun. I really love Bob Dylan, and I would like to be paid to travel somewhere. And then I, started working like the Southern US as a solo artist and thought, oh, this is it. This is amazing. And what I didn't realize at the time, which I do now, is most of this job, like the payment, is the currency of experiences and making you the person that you are. I'm, we're not wealthy. My wife isn't allowed to quit her job because we may starve if she does. But yeah, like it started from like a real sincere place of, I just want to do this. This looks like a really great job. And it was. And then all of a sudden there was like these like hints of like little whiffs of success of like go do the Jan tour and going, oh, well, this is great. And now I've got like this fancy manager and
Jan Arden you're talking about, right?
Yeah. And then quickly that sort of petered out and the new record came out and it wasn't what people wanted, or it didn't hit that same demographic because I didn't try to like write a record for that demographic. I just wanted to put out a record of the songs that I'd been writing, and then with Hideaway it was sort of like another little let's just take a little detour here, see what happens, and then came back and Middle of Nowhere came through and now I obviously it's cliche, but like the perspective of touring Europe 6 times and touring Iceland and Australia and all these experiences, and then for me, it's been important to see this through the lens of a dad with like kids who need him at home, and that has really just sort of allowed me to, I think, be like a much better dad than I ever would have been. I don't let, like with the kids, the little things don't bother me, and I feel like I dote way too hard and I'm way too affectionate with them, and every second that I am in like their presence, I'm thrilled, and it feels like I'm on the road. Like I remember we once were in Paris for a day off, and we were there on tour with Federal Lights, and we went to this great restaurant that a friend of mine had recommended, and then we did like a sort of an inebriated like walking tour at night, and we ended up classic at the Eiffel Tower, where we bought some warm like champagne from somebody in the park, and I remember FaceTiming my family, going like, "Oh, this is amazing," and I genuinely thought that this is it. Like, this is as good as it can possibly get. And I think 2 weeks later, I was back home, and I was putting my son Parker to bed for the first time since being home, and he wanted the same book that we had read, like, I don't know, 500 times. And I'm reading it to him, and then I go, "Oh, this is so weird. This feels as good, if not better, than being in my favorite city." And I was there because I was being paid to play music for people, and I'm surrounded by like a bunch of my best friends, and it's been really great. I feel like everybody in whatever career they choose, obviously, like, you know, those experiences shape who they are. And for me, this super weird life of traveling the world and trying to make people happy as well as myself and not lose my shirt every single tour has just given me this perspective of, okay, I feel like I have been given so much, and when I get home, I like to try and like Care Bear, you know, shoot that thing out of my stomach to everybody in my life as much as I can, and try and, you know, share some of that good stuff with them.
Obviously, the family thing has become more important, but do you wish that you could somehow tour more? Like, because that's something that's been inside of you for a long time, that desire to get out and play music for people. Mm-hmm. And, you know, artists, and it's not a judgment in any way, but there's a certain amount of insecurity where you like to have that validation from people clapping and cheering your name. And I can imagine you'd really want to get used to that and stuff. And now that you don't play very many shows in a year, mm-hmm. like, I don't know how many shows you do in a year,
right?
Doesn't seem like a lot, you know, ignoring pandemic. But do you miss that? Like, is there a certain amount of of grief, like not being able to play enough?
I mean, absolutely, absolutely. There is, although it's tempered by real world, like, it's tempered by real world responsibilities as well. So I absolutely, during the years of Middle of Nowhere, I was still doing usually 2-3 week house concert tours a year across Canada. And those are always great. They're always, you know, really exhausting, but they're always really, really good. And, you know, that was sort of like, that was scratching the itch for sure. But yeah, it's less about the validation and sort of people, you know, showering me with praise, and it's more about whoever I take on the road with me. I want to add to our photo book. I want to add to our shared experiences, and I want to learn. I mean, it sounds a little cheesy, but like I want to, every time we go out, I learn something about myself. I solve a problem, and I just think it makes me a genuinely like better person. And the praise is really good, but it's the act that is what's just, it's really fun, whether it's like sitting at the airport or like trying to play a show with like a hoarse throat and like saying, we are not quitting, God damn it, we are doing this, and you can cry about it later, but like just get through it right now, because these people came out and they don't have to be here. And then the actual performances of playing songs that I just love to play still, like, you know, at the end of the day, I would assume that, you know, most people, you know, enjoy just playing songs, and and that's it. So I do miss it, and I'm hoping that like next year, come September, my daughter will be at the same school as my son, and then I think that might provide me, finally with like a little bit of cover, and takes a little bit of burden off my wife. If I do, start getting to go again for like 3 weeks at a time, if she's going to the same place, that's a whole lot easier. And I want to make sure that my personal endeavors are not at the expense of everybody that is important to me. And I'd rather face the uncertainty, or like, I'd rather the burden be on me than on them as much as possible. Because up to this point, I was, not given permission, but I was supported to go and, go hard, go as much as you want, obviously be smart business-wise, don't lose everything, but we support you 100%, go do it. This is what makes you you. And so I feel like it's important that I reciprocate that and make sure that I'm not adding any burden to Lindsay. But heck yeah, I miss those people out there who have brought us in. God, it is, I think of so many of them as family, but more than that, I think of them as closer than family. I probably have better conversations with them, and I love them. It's really weird, and I love them because of our relationships we've built off the stage, and just what incredible people they are. And so I hate that limb has been sitting on the floor for a while, and it's not coming. I can't reattach it anytime soon until the kids get vaccinated, until they're at the same school, and we can come up with a system as an independent musician that works for all four of us.
Well, maybe that's an interesting time to bring up sort of this record that you had planned on. Obviously, it's still in the works, but has the record or the plan changed over the past year and a half, just because you couldn't work on it for so long?
Yeah.
And you couldn't put it out maybe when you thought?
Oh, like 100%. We wanted to start last summer, fall, and then there was sort of two issues that became roadblocks. Number one, my wife's work. She works at a biopharmaceutical company, and she was working 60 hours a week from March 2020 to March 2021. And her department was, they were working on a COVID therapy drug. And so, the default position that I needed to take was, don't think about yourself. You are literally you're the safety net right now. And so, that carried on. And even when there was like little moments of like, oh, maybe I can do something, it just sort of felt like, oh wait, we haven't even been like a family, because you work till like 9 every night. Whenever there's that window, we have to sort of recharge and regroup this thing. And then the lockdown happened in October, and we wanted to respect and do whatever we possibly could to be sort of good citizens. And so we didn't bend any rules. Nobody came over. And so that extended from, October until February. And then even by then, like, some of the players, some of my friends were feeling comfortable, some were not yet. And I was starting to, there was a noticeable psychological effect, but, that was 4 months of being by myself, and just not being able to proceed in the way that I wanted to. I was just making more and more demos. I think like I'm up to 40 right now, and then spring happened, and I got a concussion for 2.5 months that stopped me from being able to rehearse a little bit, and then we went into lockdown spring, and then finally and virtual teaching, which took years off of Parker and Mai's life. And then summer showed up, and all these gigs started to come about, and everybody who's a player was like, "Oh, it's summer, peace out," and nobody had windows, and so it was just, I had to keep just kicking the can, and so finally, September, we're here, and studio time, is booked for next week, and Parker's in school and Mara's in school, and nobody has a cold even, where's some wood? Knock on wood. And we can kind of finally begin, in earnest, getting this thing going. But I can safely say that one of the scars that I'm taking out of this has been the anxiety of, I can't make this, and it's really hard to communicate to people, like, I want to be making this. There's a bunch of people that like crowdfunded to be a part of this, and I couldn't, like, this was the first promise in my career that I just couldn't deliver, and there was nobody to blame. It was just a sort of all these things, the main one being like supporting Lindsay was like and the kids was like, that's it. That's like my number one goal, and everything else has to come second. And so I felt just so guilty over the last 18 months or 12 months, 14 months of not being able to proceed. And so I'm so eager to get this monkey off my back and start making and come what may. Luckily, because my plans to tour wouldn't even start until next September, there is that, the buffer's there, and I don't even know who's touring in the this winter. It almost seems like madness to me. And I won't tour until Mara has got her vaccine anyway, because she's 3. So it's been really tough and disjointed, and it's been hard to keep kind of like shooting like a bolt of energy into the project, only to sort of just sit back and let it fizzle out over and over and over and over again. And but it's not your fault. It's not your control, right? Like it's so weird to feel guilty about that when there's nothing you can do about it. The thing is, I do see, like, I saw like Susie and I saw Grant put out these records, and I'm like, oh, I don't have that flexibility. And, if I'm a person out there who is a supporter, I can't guarantee that they're going to go, oh, we understand. I can also see them go, well, I don't get it, man. Like, get on it. Like, just do it. Just do the work. And I just have to be like, I can't. I don't know. I can't do this by myself. And so it's just been a real psychological sort of minefield that I've had to try and navigate in my own head.
So, but most of this pressure is coming from the fact that it's your friends and family and fans' money who have paid for this thing, and you want to give them what they paid for. Is that what's driving you crazy about it?
100, like. Yeah.
But I mean, every one of us who gave you money, and I'm proud to say that I'm one of them. We all did it because we love you and we appreciate what you do, and we know you're going to make something great out of it. So I feel like if there's anybody who's sitting around wanting you to get off your ass and get the record out, they must be, first of all, kind of the exception to the rule. and they probably have some other problems in their lives. You're placing a little too much importance on what you do.
And honestly, I appreciate that, and Lindsay has tried to reiterate that to me. But I've always like tried to compare myself to other independent artists and think, okay, how do I, like, what do I need to do to be different, to be successful? And you know, for me, it's like,
you just need to be you, man. Like, there's no other you. That's the thing.
I know, but following through and, like, you know, doing everything I can is sort of, you know, something that I feel I try to exhibit in the work, and it's just, you can't reach everybody to sort of keep telling them about, oh, this isn't an excuse. This is a weird life right now, and I'm really sorry, and I don't want to lose you as a fan, and I don't want to lose you as a supporter, and I do appreciate it, and you weren't taken for granted, and the money's still there, and nothing's been touched, and I want to exceed everybody's expectations, and it's been really hard feeling handcuffed.
Well, I don't think most people would have huge expectations other than that you do what you do. Like,
it's true.
I don't think anybody's the crowdfunding is so weird. Like, for me, it's been like, I've been, you know, guys like you and Del Barber and whatever, all guys who have worked really hard and done everything, you know, on your own and raised your own money and, you know, put out the record that you could afford and stuff like that. That was all great. But the fact that crowdfunding came along and made it easier for you to do that with a lot less stress, for me, seemed like a great thing. But there's some of you guys who are still like, feel weird about taking that money or whatever. But it seems to me like the most obvious place to get the money from is people who want to give you money to do what you do.
Yeah.
And,
well, I mean,
I don't think it should come with extra stress and extra pressure, because we're all just showing that we believe in you and know that you're going to make a good thing.
Well,
whenever it comes out.
Yeah. Well, it's the good. It is on the way. Right in front of me on this desk is the tracking chart board, which has all the songs and then all the instruments in columns, and then we'll start putting big old fat X's on every time we complete a task, and then we shall see how fast can we get it out. But I'm really excited. A lot of these songs, they are it's great. They have super personal experiences that happened over the last few years that mean a lot. And there's a song that my daughter, she knows that Parker has a bunch of songs that I wrote for him on the last record, and so she's gonna get a song, and she's very excited that there's a song about her, and so I am eager to get this thing going.
Little low tonight, little low for the men and women.
JP Hoe lives in Winnipeg with his wife Lindsay, son Parker, and daughter Mara. You can find him online at jphoe.com and on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. He's hard at work on a long-awaited new album, and I know it'll be worth the wait. I've got more from our conversation that I'll share on the September 5th episode of my show, Tell the Band to Go Home, which you can find at tellthebandtogohome.com. I always love to hear from you. If you have any questions or thoughts about this show, you can drop me a line anytime at flywithyourshadow@gmail.com, and please visit the website at flywithyourshadow.com for more information about the music used in this episode, other episodes, mental health resources, and more. As always, this show is ad-free. It costs you absolutely nothing. If you feel like helping out, please consider telling someone about the show to help spread the word. Getting the show into new ears is one of the most difficult parts, but your personal recommendation to a friend or colleague would really help and would be greatly appreciated. My name's Jeff Robson, and I sincerely hope that you'll join me again on the next episode of Fly With Your Shadow.